In the heart of a quaint little town, life bustled with cheerful chatter and the aroma of fresh bread wafting through the air. The streets were lined with wooden houses, their paint weathered but filled with charm. At the center of this lively place stood a sturdy blacksmith's forge, where the hammering of iron echoed like a heartbeat, bringing life to the town. Harold, the blacksmith, was known for his powerful arms and gentle heart, crafting tools and horseshoes for the locals while sharing stories of old. Just a stone's throw away, the local tavern stood as another hub of activity. Tom, the barkeep, welcomed everyone with a smile and a steaming mug of cider. Friends gathered around tables, sharing laughter and tales as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. It was here that the community came together after a hard day's work, where bonds were formed over hearty meals and frothy drinks. However, beneath this cheerful facade lay an undercurrent of uncertainty. Rumors of strange events in nearby woods began to circulate. Yet, for now, everything felt safe as laughter filled the air, unaware of the troubles that awaited them just beyond the tavern's doors. Harold, the blacksmith, was a towering figure in more ways than one. With broad shoulders and arms like tree trunks, he possessed both the strength to forge heavy iron and the gentle spirit to lift the town's spirits. His face was weathered from years of working near the fire, yet his eyes sparkled with kindness and warmth. Children often gathered around him, enchanted by tales of knights and dragons, as he shaped metal into amazing creations right before their eyes. Known for his remarkable skills, Harold could turn a simple piece of iron into a finely crafted tool or beautiful artwork. Whether he was forging horseshoes for farmers or creating intricate designs for the local market, his reputation for quality work spread far beyond their small town. But it wasn't just his craft that made him beloved. It was his willingness to help others that truly set him apart. Whenever someone needed assistance, be it repairing a wagon wheel or lifting heavy burdens, Harold was there without hesitation. He believed that a strong community relied on helping one another. This spirit of generosity made him not only a blacksmith but also a cornerstone of the town's heart, celebrated by everyone who walked through its streets. Tom, the barkeep, was the heartbeat of the local tavern, a cozy gathering place for townsfolk seeking warmth and company. With a welcoming smile and a twinkle in his eye, he always had a kind word or a hearty laugh ready to share. His thick, dark hair gave way to a round face that lit up whenever someone entered the tavern. Behind the bar, Tom worked with purpose, pouring frothy mugs of cider and serving plates piled high with delicious food. His tavern was filled with the comforting scent of roasted meats and freshly baked bread, making it a favorite spot for locals after long days of work. Friends gathered around sturdy wooden tables, sharing stories and raising their glasses in toasts to friendship and good fortune. Tom's friendly demeanor created an atmosphere that turned strangers into friends, and every evening felt like a celebration. But Tom's role extended beyond just serving food and drink. He was an attentive listener who provided comfort during tough times. People found solace in his presence, knowing they could share their troubles or joys freely. In this small town, Tom was not just a barkeep. He was a cherished friend who helped weave the fabric of the community together. One warm evening, as laughter filled the tavern and the sun dipped below the horizon, a sudden hush fell over the room. Tom had just poured a round of cider for a group of friends when he paused mid-sentence, his face turning pale. Before anyone could react, he collapsed behind the bar, sending glasses clattering to the floor. Gasps echoed throughout the tavern as patrons rushed to his side. Confusion and panic spread like wildfire. The once lively atmosphere was now thick with concern, and worried whispers filled the air. People wondered if something was wrong with Tom, or if it was simply exhaustion from his long hours of work. Had he eaten something bad? Or was it related to the strange happenings rumored in the nearby woods? Harold, who had been chatting with some townsfolk at the forge, quickly rushed over when he heard the commotion. Kneeling beside Tom, he checked for signs of life while others looked on anxiously. As fear gripped their hearts, everyone felt a sense of urgency to help their beloved barkeep, not knowing what could be causing this unexpected crisis. Without a moment's hesitation, Harold sprang into action. His heart raced as he knelt beside Tom, who lay unconscious on the floor of the tavern. The concern etched on the faces of the onlookers only fueled his determination. With careful strength, Harold gently lifted Tom's limp body and cradled him in his powerful arms. Despite the urgency of the situation, he handled Tom with utmost care, mindful of his friend's well-being. Harold knew that if Tom was to regain consciousness safely, he needed a secure spot away from the chaos. He spotted the anvil near the forge, a sturdy piece of iron that could serve as a makeshift resting place. With one swift motion, he carried Tom to it and laid him down gently, positioning him with his head supported and chest open for ease of breathing. The townsfolk watched in awe as Harold's confidence shone through in that moment. It was clear that he would do everything possible to help his friend. Even amid their growing anxiety, there was a sense of reassurance in knowing that someone as strong and caring as Harold was there to protect Tom until help arrived. As the commotion in the tavern grew, Marla, the town marshal, was making her rounds nearby. Known for her fierce determination and sharp instincts, she took her responsibilities seriously, always ensuring the safety of her fellow townsfolk. With her tall stature and commanding presence, she inspired confidence in those around her. Her dark uniform contrasted sharply with her bright, watchful eyes that missed nothing in their periphery. When she heard the sudden uproar from the tavern, Marla's heart quickened. She sprinted toward the source of the disturbance, her boots pounding against the cobblestone streets. The sight that greeted her was alarming. People were gathered around Tom's unconscious body while Harold worked to help him. Marla quickly assessed the situation, feeling a surge of urgency. She knew that time was crucial. If something more sinister lurked nearby, perhaps related to the strange happenings in the woods, she needed to act fast. Without hesitation, she ordered some townsfolk to seal the tavern's shutters to keep any potential danger at bay. As she turned back towards Harold and Tom, her mind raced with plans to ensure everyone's safety while seeking answers to what had caused this crisis in their beloved town. Marla took charge, her commanding presence radiating a sense of urgency. She swiftly gestured to a few brave townsfolk, instructing them to help secure the tavern. The shutters, made of sturdy wood, had always provided a sense of safety but were rarely needed until now. As they rushed to the windows, Marla worked alongside them, her strong hands gripping the edges of the shutters. Together, they pulled them down with determination, sealing off any view of the outside world. The once vibrant light that danced through the tavern dimmed as each window was closed tightly, adding an almost eerie calmness to the room. The sounds of laughter and chatter faded into a heavy silence, replaced by the hurried whispers and shuffling feet within. Marla knew that behind those closed shutters lay safety for everyone inside, distancing them from whatever danger might lurk beyond. Once all was secured, she stepped back and surveyed the scene inside. The atmosphere grew tense but focused. She could feel everyone's eyes on her for guidance. With a deep breath, Marla prepared to outline her next steps, confident they would work together to protect their community from this unexpected threat. As the tavern settled into an uneasy silence, Marla's thoughts raced with concern. Rumors had been whispering through the town like shadows, tales of strange lights flickering in the nearby woods and unsettling noises in the night. What unsettled her most was the unsettling knowledge of a hidden stash of explosives stored by a group of travelers who had recently passed through. They claimed it was for a project deep in the forest, but Marla couldn't shake the feeling that it was a disaster waiting to happen. She could picture it vividly. A careless mistake or an accident, where one spark or loud noise could send chaos erupting through their peaceful town. The thought made her stomach churn. If those explosives fell into the wrong hands or were triggered unintentionally, it could spell disaster for everyone inside the tavern and beyond. Marla took a deep breath, fighting against the rising tension that loomed in the air. She needed to act fast, not just to protect Tom and Harold but also to ensure that whatever threat lurked outside did not reach their doorstep. Her mind raced with plans to investigate further and secure the explosives before they could become a source of devastation. Time was of the essence. With her heart pounding in her chest, Marla knew she had to take decisive action to protect her community from the hidden explosives. The weight of responsibility pressed heavily on her shoulders, but she steeled herself, determined to prevent any potential disaster before it started. She approached the stash of dynamite with caution, her breath steady despite the tension in the air. Lighting a stick of dynamite was fraught with risk, but Marla understood the urgency of the situation. With a confident hand, she struck a match and carefully ignited the fuse, allowing it to flicker to life for just a moment. As flames danced at its tip, she felt a rush of adrenaline surge through her veins. With a firm decision, she hurried outside the tavern, bringing the lit dynamite away from the building and towards an open area where it could be controlled. She knew that by creating a small, controlled explosion, she could eliminate the threat posed by the hidden explosives nearby. Marla's bravery shone brightly as she prepared to toss it into a safe distance, and in that moment, she became a symbol of courage for everyone watching, ready to face danger head-on for the sake of her community. The atmosphere in the tavern was thick with tension as the townsfolk gathered, their eyes darting between Harold, who tended to Tom, and Marla, who prepared to neutralize the looming threat. Whispers filled the room. Some expressed worry for Tom's health while others marveled at Marla's bravery. Harold's focused expression offered a sense of reassurance to those watching. As he gently checked Tom's pulse and adjusted his position on the anvil, the community witnessed the blacksmith's steadfast care. His actions reminded everyone of the bond they shared, a bond that brought comfort in chaotic moments. Outside, Marla stood resolute, her courage shining like a beacon. As she lit the dynamite, some townsfolk gasped, while others held their breath in anticipation. They were both anxious and inspired by her decisive action. She was not just protecting them but also embodying their collective strength. In that moment, the community felt united. A shared pulse of hope and fear coursed through them. As the lit fuse flickered and crackled, they all knew that whatever happened next would define their town's spirit. With hearts racing, they braced for Marla's explosion, hoping it would quell both the immediate danger and the shadows of uncertainty lurking in their lives. As the tension rose outside, Harold remained vigilant, combining his focus on Tom's well-being with an eye on Marla's actions. He gently checked Tom's pulse, his fingers steady yet firm, reassuring himself that his friend was still alive. Leaning closer to Tom, he whispered words of encouragement, urging him to wake. The familiar warmth of Harold's voice seemed to resonate through the stillness. Meanwhile, the sounds of rustling and crackling filled the air outside as Marla prepared for the controlled explosion. Every so often, Harold would glance through the dimly lit tavern window to catch a glimpse of her determined figure against the fading light. It was a shared understanding among the townsfolk. They knew that Marla wasn't just acting for herself, but for everyone gathered inside. Other patrons busied themselves by gathering supplies to assist Harold. One person fetched a cloth to dampen Tom's forehead while another stood guard by the door, ready to help at a moment's notice. This unity in purpose sparked courage in those present, reminding them all that they were in this together. As Marla steadied herself outside, Harold felt a renewed sense of strength. Together with his friends and neighbors, they would face whatever came next as a single resilient community. With a steady hand, Marla hurled the lit dynamite away from the tavern, and in an instant, it soared through the air before landing in the open space nearby. A heartbeat later, a thunderous explosion shook the ground, sending a shockwave that echoed through the quiet town. The blinding flash illuminated the darkening sky as flames burst forth, followed by a plume of smoke rising into the air. The townsfolk collectively gasped, but when they saw that the explosion had cleared away piles of debris and potential threats hidden in the woods, relief washed over them like a wave. Cheers erupted from those gathered inside the tavern as they rushed to windows and doors, witnessing what Marla had accomplished. The tension that had gripped their hearts moments ago transformed into exhilaration, gratitude for their brave marshal who had acted decisively to protect them all. Harold looked down at Tom, who began to stir on the anvil, signs of life returning to his friend. With joy lighting his features, he joined in the cheers alongside his neighbors. Together, they celebrated not just their victory over impending danger, but also the strength of their community, a bond fortified by shared bravery and resilience in the face of chaos. As the cheers of relief echoed throughout the tavern, Tom's eyes fluttered open, slowly adjusting to the dim light around him. Confused but aware, he took in the scene. a room filled with familiar faces full of joy and gratitude. It didn't take long for him to realize the gravity of what had just occurred. "Harold? Marla?" he croaked, his voice weak but filled with emotion. Harold knelt beside him, a look of profound relief washing over his face. "You're safe, Tom. We thought we lost you," he said, clapping a reassuring hand on Tom's shoulder. Tom smiled faintly and shifted his gaze to Marla, who stood nearby, still catching her breath from the adrenaline of the moment. "Thank you, both of you," he said earnestly, his voice growing stronger. "I don't know what I would have done without your quick thinking. You saved us." The townsfolk nodded in agreement, their hearts swelling with pride for their brave marshal and the steadfast blacksmith. As Tom regained his strength, he understood that it was not just their actions that mattered, but the bond they all shared as a community. Together, they had faced danger and emerged victorious, and it was this unity that would continue to strengthen them in the days to come.